when it comes in is going to really set some of the better made wearables apart from the flow. I think that like it's similar to having a drop ship Shopify, you know? There's a million of them out there. You can buy a hat from anybody. You can buy a t-shirt from anybody. And we're about to get into that here where you're going to be able to buy a t-shirt from anybody. But the ones you're going to want to buy are the people who are meta famous. I don't care about your brand new t-shirt when I can buy a full fit from the Meta Zoo, who's a friend of mine. You know, like that's where you're going to go further. You have to have somebody in here, feet on the ground, shaking hands, talking to people, making friendships. I think we get so drawn into the possibilities of the space that we forget to grow the space. We need to use some of the old styles and old media for a transitional amount of time. So, maybe that's pulling, we're all seeing this as the future, and we're like, okay, we're at the start of it. But it's necessary for us to pull our friends and our family in, as difficult as that all is. And trust me, I know every time I try to discuss it with someone, they're like, you live in the future.
Like, join me.
Yeah, come join me in the future, because for real. I think that strategizing marketing moving forward, though, is going to be very difficult because in traditional advertising, we have KPIs, we have key performance indicators that I can look at and I can say, oh, this person landed on this plot of land and the music glitched, so they bounced out, and that was the issue. And, like you don't have a bounce rate, you don't have there's no A B testing yet. There's just all of us throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks,
See who
And
shows up.
I mean, it's working so far, but I mean, that's what the shill is. A lot of the NFT boom has made it so that everybody can make a piece of art, but they might not necessarily know how to market themselves. But the nature of the space is such that they just make the piece of art and they throw it up on Twitter and they think they're going to be millionaires now, or they drop it in every collector on Twitter's, feed. And there has to be some level of like, okay, let's step back for a minute, because now as an artist, you're a brand and you have to act as such moving forward. I'm jealous of a lot of you guys with the anonymity, because you can just be whoever you want to be. We don't know what your names are. You've got avatars, you've got whatever. But moving into this space was important to me, that people knew that I knew what I was talking about and that I wasn't just coming out of left field,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, you have much more on the line. So, it's reputation-wise.
I mean, I think going forward, the most important thing is that we get somebody. I don't know how many devs and coders we have in here, but that we have some sort of measurable analytics, something like a Web 3.0 Google Analytics, where we can measure these KPIs and we can see, okay, we had 3,000 some people roll in for Dylan Francis, but like how many of them got bounced? Where did they come from? How did they find out about it? All of these things are like so necessary moving forward if you want to plan to market going forward.
Yeah, there's a whole new industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be huge. I don't. Whoever wants to get on that, figure out the hot spots, figure out why they're getting bounced from where they're getting bounced, or why they're choosing to leave. Figuring out if they're there for the art, are they there to gamble, are they there? I'd like to know what each person is there for, because then you better know how to market to them. You can do some A/B testing. We can put some stuff out and be like, oh, this works better than that. But when I first jumped into the space, your thought isn't to advertise in there, okay? Because as soon as you say advertising, you think of the Oasis, and you're like, we can take this much of your view before you have a seizure. But there is tasteful ways to do it, and I think there's friendly ways to do it, especially since we have communication with each other. So even in the smart builder, there's a billboard in there. So, what's to say that like Kevin on Earth doesn't put a billboard for peanut butter on his property and vice versa, so that you're sort of like, that's another way you can help each other out. Does anyone have any questions or like want to know my background or anything?
No, that does make a lot of sense what you just said about cross advertising. And it's interesting for people who own land and parcel to think about that right now. Maybe some of them are advertising for their friends or their partners a lot and bouncing people just back and forth. But putting in billboards just other cool places in Decentraland might actually be more valuable because you'll keep people, you get the stickiness of the customer who's like excited to come back to your land to find like, link me to the next cool project. So I don't know. I think that is an interesting point, that billboard feature and linking within Decentraland for the greater good rather
As
than
soon as I
for
saw the
just show.
billboard, I created that the peanut butter where he's it's an actual jar of peanut butter, or I have one for sauce where he's a bottle of hot sauce, or Lastrom just turned the pizza box into the NFT. So that kind of stuff, when I was looking, I was like, okay, if my natural background is food, so I'm like, okay, if I was going to advertise one of them on a plot for another, you know what I'm saying, I'm like, well, how would I do that and just make it attractive? And I'm thinking, okay, so you're walking down the street in real world, in real life, and you see this, like, I don't know, soda ad or a ad for a pizza place, but like just making it relative to DCL and not making it so random and all over the place, nice, clean, pretty to look at, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So how did you get into advertising
Um,
pre NFTs?
from the photography, I get hired by agencies to project their brand in a high-end fashion. So, yeah.
So really, it was from your interest in photography, and it kind of led into corporate or.
Right. It led me to a corporate job in an art in a group, of
Yeah.
creatives together. We had graphics and video was one guy, social and whatever is whatever, and then I did the photography. But we were a small group, and so everybody had to do everything. And so I learned to make the retail email marketing on geez, I can't remember the name of it right now. But then move to Mailchimp, and you got to learn all of those in the OmniSend, and just that's where you really learn about segmenting, which is so super important when you're trying to market to somebody. We all right now fit into probably about 3 different categories. We got some gamblers in here. We got your crypto guys in here. We got your art guys. We got your music guys, and
Gamers.
yeah, we got your gamers. Yeah, exactly. Gamers, gamer tags. But or old school. We came from like the billboard systems. In my case, I've been making friends on the internet since like 2009. Murph and I were talking about this earlier, but or I'm sorry, 1995. But we it's kind of like the way and the direction that is comfortable for all of us. Gamers, musicians, photographers, creatives, we all are on the computer all the time. But we all fit into that right now. But moving forward, when we want to reach out to these other groups potentially, we're going to need some metrics to gather to understand what brought them there. We know what brought us all here. What's going to bring level 2 in? I don't know how much you're able to see on the website, but I've done some brand development, and then patented projects will come to me in the design stages and things like that, so that they have stuff to create the patents from, basically.
Yeah, I love your photography.
Thank you.
I didn't realize how hard photography was until I got an iPhone. It's crazy.
iPhone made everybody a photographer.
Well, yeah. Everybody a documentarist, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so please, if anybody has questions or wants to bring up a topic.
I'd first like to say thank you for just having me and giving me a chance to do this, especially the inaugural. It's very cool. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for agreeing to jump in first.
You know what's
Hey,
funny
Nicole.
is,
Oh.
hey, go ahead.
I have a question if you're still not talking.
Yeah, go ahead.
I definitely like love your work and see what you've done with like Lastron's Pizza Box or like Kevin on Earth Solar Pop. And I was just wondering how do you plan to implement your skills further in the future of Decentraland and kind of take it from what you've been doing now into like the future, like you were saying.
It's really tough because I was also talking to Murph about this, but it changes daily for me, and it's almost at the speed of which the metaverse kind of grows. My whole idea of what I plan on doing here changes. When I first jumped in, it was I come from fashion. Obviously, wearables is the second normal step for someone who comes from fashion. I work in fine jewelry, so that, trying to convince a fine jewelry designer to make anything AR or in the metaverse is very difficult because they tend to be very, very old. You're talking like old Diamond District kind of dealers, and they just don't get it yet. But so then that kind of morphed into, like I said, like I wanted to make these ads pretty, and I was just like, well, I have these relationships with these people, and I want to do this nice thing for them. And then it sort of morphed into, well, why shouldn't there be an agency here? There should be an agency here, and someone can actually kind of assist people going forward who might not know what direction to go in. Whether that's like a consultancy, and I'm just like, hey, yo, I got this great idea. We should do this, whatever sort of thing. Or, maybe it's, I eventually would like to make those ads for each other. But I mean, I don't think we're in the space right now where I feel like charging absorbently for that yet. I feel like we're in the beginning stages, and we're kind of all like a community and a family, and we're just all trying to figure out where we're going to fit into this right now.
For sure, for sure.
Hey, Nicole, I had a quick question for you.
Shoot.
Coming from the fashion industry and that's more product focused and marketing, how do you see any differences between marketing a product as opposed to marketing an NFT art piece, perhaps one that has less utility?
Less utility is hard because I'm a big believer in your NFT having utility. I don't own personally any NFT artwork, which is really terrible. I've purchased artwork in real life from other artists, but I've never purchased an NFT that did not have some sort of utility. I have some wearables. I originally jumped in assuming the Atari wearables were going to have some sort of mining bonus because I'm that kind of a degen. So those were my first purchases. But I think that it's important to remember when you make an NFT that you personally are the brand. You're the brand. You as an artist now have to represent yourself. I mean, I can give assistance to anybody who wants to go forward and do that in like a classy manner. But it's really difficult right now because the nature of the beast is that you just put it on OpenSea and you shill everybody. And I just don't think that that's, the way that you necessarily want to do that. I love the crossover now where you can see yacht apes are actual stickers and you have to go find them. And if you actually go find them, then you can you're eligible to get a yacht ape. I mean, those kind of crossover things. That's what I was saying earlier when it's all well and good that we want to jump into this space, but we have to remember the way that we marketed in the past a little bit. You've got to have a little bit of crossover there where you have like an in-person situation going on.
That's why I feel like storytelling and creating a narrative is really important. Because that
right, a background with something, absolutely. We get so drawn into the possibilities of the space that we forget that we need to use some of the old styles for a transitional amount of time. Like we need to use those a little bit. You got to go back to like the old. You're making friends at this point. You're shaking hands. Everyone is your friend until they become like a horrible troll. Just I almost like you have to have like this is a weird thing, but like I call it a Kevin on Earth attitude, where he's just so nice to everyone at all times, and that's sort of where we are right now. Like, it's too early for us to be clanning up. It is. It's too early. We should all be a clan. at the end of the day.
Completely agree.
Hey, Kat. So I don't know. Can you guys see the stream? Who's on the stream? Peanut butter, is that you?
I think
Dorian's streaming it. Yeah, I've got it pulled up though.
Frank, pull up food. My food portfolio. The fine jewelry is pretty hardcore. The fine jewelry, most of the fine jewelry that I've shot is like, we're talking about serious jewelers.
cool pictures.
Love the curlers one.
Yeah, I got in trouble for that one. It's funny, the one the Pope is made out of and the curlers one were, believe it or not, a little too avant-garde for the old Naples place that I was working. They were not a fan of the blue hair, but I think that is probably like one of my favorite photographs of all time. The lighting on the rings is just so sick.
That is so.
It's hilarious that like some of like I feel like your most popping photography is ones that like those corporations didn't really like.
And those I definitely went against the grain on those, but I mean, again, we all live in the future, right?
More risk, more reward.
Exactly, it's too risky for them.
Move off the space.
Mm-hmm. Well, they work with so within that we worked with places like Farfetch, which I think Farfetch is going to be they'd be really dumb to not step into the metaverse, only because they cover like every boutique in the world, basically every small boutique. So when you're buying like something off the runway and there's say only 5 to 10 of those, they go all over the world. Farfetch is one site where you can find them all, and it would be really dumb for Farfetch to not come in at some point. See, that's what I would love to be. I would love to be the person on the phone that's like, hey, Farfetch, you need to be in the metaverse. Hey, Rent the Runway, you need to be in the metaverse. Let's make that happen.
Get some serious onboarding.
Right.
For sure, and I like what you were saying earlier about like brands need someone like you who would have to bring them in and be on the ground shaking hands and making friends, because I do agree, like brands who just come in and just want to make the money or just want to put their stamp in the metaverse but don't add to the community won't last as long as the people who are actively in it and showing support to others so that we can show support to them as well.
Exactly.
Seems like a lack of long-term planning. It seems like quick cash grabs die out really quick, and to really attract a base, you really need a long-term plan that establishes that you're going to be around, a year later.
I would agree with that, and I would say even as far as like if you're going to make an NFT, you better make a damn collection. You better have it all thought out. There better be a story behind it. There better be a whole process before you're like, I'm going to make 3 NFTs and I'm going to launch them and sell them, and now I'm going to shill them everywhere like, hey, buy this.
Yeah, and I think us as like an audience too, we're so used to being, people trying to make a quick buck now or scam or something that it gets shut down so quickly, where we pursue and we support the things that we feel we want to last.
I think the hardcores are in here, we in here, and we understand utility at this point. And utility is really, I mean, I was talking to last time, I'm like, if we can make a t-shirt that just said like utility, utility, utility all over the front, and in the back it said, if you build it, they will come. Because like, seriously, if you build it and you add some sort of utility to it, it's the future. Or even, Cat 5, they're working on things right now where like your streams should not be for free eventually. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're building a community right now, but at some point there needs to be like a ticketing process so that, all of us that are in here, we don't continuously throw it for free.
Understand that.
Accessibility, just not necessarily exclusivity, but being able to access something extra in terms of experience, especially in Decentraland, the live music events, and having that extra experience that goes along with the NFT adds so much value.
I agree.
Hey, Kat, you're putting in a bunch of feedback. If you don't mind muting your mic, please.
Oh,
So, any other questions?
Yeah, I got one. Do you guys do anything with the fashion district yet?
I rolled around there and I early on asked, tried to join the Discord and try to get in there and talk to them about, I think there's one guy that kind of runs it.
Yeah.
And just to say, like, I do know people at these brands. Like, I know people at Farfetch. I know people in some of these larger locations. Just to say, like, hey, let me just show them what's kind of going on here. But I got no response from anybody. I mean, most of the districts, to me, at this point, seem dead.
Yeah, that's kind of my experience too. So early on, I've got 3 contributions to different districts, but yeah, even their discords are somewhat, non-existent, where you feel like you're just kind of throwing a question out there into the void.
I don't get me wrong. I absolutely adore the fashion districts build. It's a little much for my laptop, but it's amazing and it's going. I mean, the whole idea of it is fantastic.
So yeah, even right now, there's a builder contest for the district, and I'm probably one of the only people that I've seen even propose anything. So I'm like, where are the other people that are a part of this district that have ideas like what you have, that want to try to build out this type of a presence in that area of Decentraland?
My first builds were directed at the fashion district. One of the first things I built was a I mean, I haven't deployed it. I don't have any land, but I built an NFT like plant shop basically, because we have a lot of those here in Naples, Florida, where it's like very high end. You walk in, but then these NFTs would like go into your locations, all without realizing that like MetaZone already had plants and like all of these other. I wasted hours building this thing, but in the style of Fashion Street, which is, you really have to stay. If you want anything to get in there, you really kind of have to stay in their look of things.
I feel like these teams and these districts are a lot smaller than I first assumed. I think they might be people. I'm wondering if that's maybe has to deal with the slow process and feedback.
I would agree with that.
So you think there's ever going to be a way to change that? Like, how do we get the districts to engage more? I understand like it's a funding issue from the beginning, where everybody got all the land, but then there's nobody to fund actual development of the district. So I guess how do we accelerate that? Because I think the things that like the Central Games are doing, or MetaZone, or, you're coming up with another business model to generate content for the world. And I think that's really what all the people in these discords and that have to focus on seeing this metaverse succeed.
Right.
We've got to be able to build that out.
Absolutely. And to kind of stay, and that's kind of like where I was saying, like to stay on the theme of the district that you're in. So your advertising should sort of flow with that. And if you don't have a person who can kind of make that flow, or if that's not something that you do, like that's the other thing in here is that a lot of you guys are programmers. A lot of you guys are make it work people, and I'm a make it pretty person. So, a lot of the front end kind of stuff is not necessarily having to do with coding or having to do with developing, but just the basic of idea and the plan. Like I can draw you guys a picture. Can you make that work?
Question: when you're talking about branding, are you branding other people's stuff and claiming it as your own? Or
No, absolutely not. I would be hired by a brand, but that is an interesting question because the legal system is basically in the Stone Age as far as all of this goes. There's you're not going to find a lawyer that's like, oh, I'm familiar with the blockchain at this point, and there kind of needs to be almost because you're right.
Yeah,
and especially moving forward with this wearable situation, we're going to run into a lot of trouble. And if you go into Fashionland right now, there's pictures of brands on the side of the building who have no association with Fashion Street. So, where's the line there? Are you going to get in trouble? Are the names actually going to be a game where they actually do buy the names, or are they going to sue you?
Exactly.
having
So when you're actually building these 3D models, they're owned already by a company. So we go ahead and make them and try to sell it to them. Is that a copyright infringement at that? I mean, you can really make all this stuff no problem. It's just the fact that, there's laws behind all of this.
Yeah, and I mean, in the real world, there's laws behind it, but like, what are we doing here? It's like the Wild West, and that was one of my concerns also, especially with the name game. I really have like one foot on each side of that. I've purchased a couple, but I'm not purchasing brand names, so. And I'm really just not sure how that's going to play out, because is it going to play out that they have to purchase it like a .com, or is it going to play out where you get a cease and desist?
All right. So basically, modeling things like apples, bananas, grapes, things like that, you can 3D model them because there's nobody that can specifically own those type of items. Would that be better to try to make those and sell them to grocery stores such as like Piggly Wiggly, Walmart, places that would want to go into the virtual world or possibly will in the future?
The
They have
virtual
those items
food
to
game,
sell.
the virtual food thing is interesting to me, because it's not like we don't have like a life bar. We don't have like a fall, whatever. We don't die. We don't regenerate, so it's not like right now we don't really need food to live in Decentraland. It's more so being able to like market,
Like wearables,
yeah, the wearables and
jewelry,
the art, really, because
commodities. Yeah.
yeah, and honestly, like, if you walk through the museum district, the art is segmented. If you start to walk through the other districts, now you've got collector on collector on collector, and they have a lot of the same things because we all are friends with a lot of the same people. So you'll walk into a building that has crypto babes, and they have some of Cat 5 stuff, and they have a jellyfish, and they have Zeta stuff, and they have, whatever, but we're all doing the same thing and putting the same stuff. And so what I'm saying is to think a little bit, like take another step backwards and think about the human element a little bit, because you also have galleries that are starting to get in right now and deal in NFTs, and we're like, yo, we don't want you here because you said it was
Yeah.
stupid a couple months ago, so you're not allowed at this
You
point.
killed the vibe, bro.
Yeah.
Well, we're all in this enlightenment stage. It's just how do we go about with collaborating with other companies and people that have these things running up right now to get their items minted on 3D modeling so that they can go ahead and sell it on the metaverse.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've been playing in Blender. I've been trying to create wearables. I've been learning to sew stuff just because I think the female wearables need to be a little bit more feminine. But, I wouldn't try to launch a line myself right now. Being like in this chat and knowing that you guys all know my name, I still probably wouldn't try to launch a line just because I would be like nervous. And I would want a whole line, like an actual fashion line.
All right, because you can't just have one thing, sell it, everybody, 1,000 people check out with just one item. You're gonna need 100 items up there. So it brings up another thing. How can we get teams to work together in order to put these things out a little bit faster?
I think it's important that we work in teams. I think there needs to be, just like in the real world where you would hire an influencer to wear your hat.
Start a board.
Right. I mean, I think
directive of the
Toonpunk has one under hiring. If you go under hiring, Toonpunk has a actual form you can fill out and like share your actual personal accomplishments, and then he'll connect people together.
There's actually somebody that the DAO, the Decentraland DAO, just changed the format as well, where it's snapshot gasless voting, and there's a proposal right now about changing the wearable system to people that kind of govern it. So worth checking into, being that we're talking.
Yeah,
about
they're proposing that there's like a board of like 3 to 4 people who decide what comes in and what doesn't come in. I mean, I'm just hoping moving forward that wearables aren't just kicked out. That they're like a little bit more like a cyber Mike, like. All of his wearables are fully rigged. They're gorgeous. There's like a lot of work into them. This is a piece of art too. NFTs wearables are art, and they should be created with some sense of, an art. Like I said earlier, the Blau t-shirt's not even sewed at the shoulder.
Oh, this stuff's here
It's not
to,
even
it's here to stay.
yeah, it's not even sewn at the shoulder. So like, and we're spending $300 on that. So moving forward, I would just like that the fashion that we spend our money on is actually well made. Right now we're buying it because that's what's there, but like moving forward and having it get approved, I hope that there's someone with some background in Blender who's deciding, you know, you come back to us when this is actually sewn, you know?
Yeah, I've got all the material. I've got Dimension, Adobe's, I've got Blender downloaded. I mean, I just kind of mess around with these items. Just don't know what is it for at this point in time. You know, being enlightened by all this stuff is just who can send me the items so that I can go ahead and 3D model them and to
Maybe I
work
have to do
with it.
some
That's
outreach.
what we're looking for.
May have to do some outreach to maybe some branding departments of certain companies. I know Dole just hired, or they hired a artist and NFTs, 3D animations to promote their food scarcity campaign. So it may not even necessarily have to do with the product directly, but they actually have some campaigns that is tied to a narrative that you can appeal to be able to.
Right, that's another thing, like instead of a use case, okay, so now maybe it doesn't get me a mining bonus, but it donates to India right now for COVID relief or something like that. So, I mean, that's a use case as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like those masks that they did for when COVID first came out.
Right, exactly.
COVID
That was
first came out. I think it was
Yeah, because
Cool.
COVID changed everything in the aspect of how we shop and how people want to do things. I mean, Walmart, you can check online. You can check out online with their online shopping. You can go check out with groceries. You can pick out your items and then go pick it up. But what if you
Dole
made it
is
more
usually
interesting?
pretty fashion forward too. Dole uses like Unsplash. They'll take pictures of like pineapples on the beach and stuff. They're very good at their marketing.
Oh yeah, and they'll sell that picture to Walmart as a self checkout. So now they got these pictures already up there, but you can 3D model them. Maybe I don't know how that's all gonna work.
Hey Nicole, I'd like to get your
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
just thinking, talking about all these the legal side of branding and copyrights, whatever trademarks. So what in our new space and kind of the way this works, though? What about enforcement? I mean, how are we going to make somebody take down?
I think that personally, I think that new proposal from the DAO is a little loosely, it's a little loosey goosey for me. But I come from a space where, like, if I do work for hire, if someone had stolen one of those images that I've taken that are up on the stream right now, those are of like $1 million in jewelry, billion probably in that Earth picture. But like, so, you know, if someone is to steal one of those and then use it on their selling site, I would come after them. And I have like a person on retainer that just sends out cease and desists all day long. And
Right.
I think we're a
The
little bit
metaverse.
ahead of it right now, but I hope that it doesn't become a problem. I think that the first wearables that want to get pushed through are going to be, it's going to be us. It's going to be all of us pushing the wearables through. Then we'll get the people in the Discord who get linked to the wearable builder who are like, oh, I want to create a new set of wearable. And we'll see. I mean, it's all going to be like it's a waiting game right now.
Yeah, I guess I'm just more thinking that just the censorship in general. You can't. I mean, if someone
Who's
puts
to decide? Who's to decide what is offensive at this point? I mean,
well,
that's
Coca-Cola.
an age-old conversation.
But if they put
Seems
up a
very
Coca-Cola
convenient.
sign, you can't make them take it down.
Right. Welcome to
So-
Decentraland. You know,
Right.
like
Cease and desist me all day.
decentralized. So
What are you
it's
gonna do?
decentralized, but then you're going to throw rules at me. Like I can't use a
Yeah.
Coca-Cola logo. Like I don't know. I don't. It's
Well, then who's to say who can make wearables or not? So now we're making I don't know. It's like two sides
Yeah.
of that argument too.
And a Nazi created a
now we
swap.
have a
Do we just let the
centralized
market
committee
figure it
that
out?
decides what wearables can be made. That's a very like old school way of thinking for sure.
Maybe let the market figure that out. Crap wearables won't sell. As long
And
as it's
that's
not, like, taking
basically
it down.
the point. I mean, and that's like I said earlier, you can have a Amazon dropship for almost anything at this point, and people can pump out t-shirts saying whatever they want. They can buy a design from somebody on Etsy, or they may or may not pay for it, and like you can do whatever you want at this point. I think that the cream will rise to the top. I'm hoping that the cream will rise to them. Hoping that everyone in this thread right now pays attention to blender styles and understands, like, when there's no colliders in your outfit and when there's, like, you know, a fully rigged shoe. Like, again, Cyber Mike, what? But
Yeah, there's definitely difference in quality out there.
I think at the
This
end
is
of the
good that,
day,
like,
what
I
I
swear
just,
these conversations just bring up even more questions.
I know.
Absolutely.
Well, that's where we're at right now. You know, like, even making the notes to write this conversation, I was like, on marketing strategy, the most important things is key performance indicators. It's things I can look at. It's analytics that I can look at and A/B testing and things like that. And I'm like, how do you even do content marketing strategy in the metaverse? Because, I mean, I know the strategy one is hop your ass in here and meet some people. You know, when I first got in here, I sat in the casino and I didn't talk to anybody. And I might not even had mana at that point or anything to gamble with. I just hung out in there, like, listening to people talk, or, you know, went to events and listened to people talk. I don't know when I became, like, an active member, but at some point you just have to start shaking hands. You just have to start making friends. It's just like being in a room in a party of people networking in the real world. Don't send me a friend request if we have not had a conversation. Like, don't drop into Discord and say you want to create a whole set of wearables and you're going to change the face of the metaverse and all the shit these people are saying, but you've not even landed in here. Like, never once.
Do you have MetaMask?
Right. I'm not talking to you until I find out if you have a MetaMask.
Yeah, it's that someone called MetaMask friends. I think I say that and everything, but it's just, I love that. Saying I'm a MetaMask friends.
It's just incredibly difficult to broach this conversation to actual agencies. There are a couple large agencies that I work with still, you know, that I still have to work in the real world. I'm not making money in here yet. But, you know, that I try to explain this to. Like, this is the future. Like, each brand will own a spot. They will have a plot. They will be marketing however they're going to market, whether that's like walk by traffic or, you know, an actual popes or events or gosh knows what. But, like, you can't do that unless you're actually in here. And every time I try to talk to them, they're, you know, they just shoot you off and they're like, oh, you're so smart. You, like, live in the future. You're like, well, that's all well and good, but, like, are you interested? Are you going to do anything about it?
So passively dismissive.
Yeah. Oh, you live in the future. You're so cute. Well, I mean, that's also half being a woman, too. They're like, ah, you're so cute.
I always try to describe it as a three-dimensional internet browser. I feel like that's, like, the easiest way I can get people to sort of wrap their head around the concept. And if they want to explore more, then I get more decentralized aspect, because it's so much more than just a browser or something like that. But that's my
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or, like, you know, when people are like, so it's like a social networking, and you're like, not really. Or they think it's Second Life and that you've now dissolved into, like, you don't leave your house and you have no tan and you are on, like, a sex fetish website all day long. Like, no, it's not. It's sort of like Second Life, but, like, not really. My kid started calling it business Second Life. And I asked him, I think it was like last night or something, I yelled into the room, I'm like, what's a da-da-da-da game? And he was like, it's a first-person shooter, like, real world, da-da-da. I'm like, so, like, Chain Guardians? And he's like, yeah, okay. And he goes, some people play games just to play the games.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I was like, he's like, he thinks I'm in here all day just to make money. And I'm like, that's fine. When I make a lot of money in here, I'm going to leave it to your sister.
I think it's always kind of difficult to explain exactly what Decentraland is, because it's more about the opportunity, the possibility, rather than the platform itself.
We can get blinded by the possibilities sometimes too, you know. And I think we're all so taxed right now because we're all, like, trying to do our real jobs, and then and so enamored with the possibilities at the same time that like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh my god, I have the best idea.
It's really split my brain in half.
For sure. Because it's hard to come back to the real world when you're so excited about the possibilities of the future, and I'm, say I'm in here doing this chat, and then I have to go edit my stupid photos for print, which is like a dead media. Like I'm like, can we just all get in the same line here?
The main reason why I'm boarding, if I can blend my real life into this metaverse, then I don't have to separate the two.
Right, and I think
That's
I
the
think that's the
dream.
beauty. That's the beauty of Decentraland, though, is that okay, we've got some avatars in here. We got some avatars, we got some real faces, but like even the avatar faces, I know are real people. Like I know what you guys do. I know who you are, and that's different than Second Life, where people try to remain anonymous. And we're all trying to move forward together and do something bigger.
I feel like Second Life was more escapism, while I feel like Decentraland is more about actually building something that's not necessarily tangible in the physical sense, but definitely has more deeper meaning behind it.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think we're all pretty bullish on Decentraland in here, but like I'm pretty hardcore believer in the land, especially above and beyond. I mean, even a sandbox, which it would be nice at some point if you could port from Decentraland into Sandbox, from Sandbox into Decentraland, sort of like an Oasis type Ready Player One situation. And I think maybe that will be the future, or there's a Minecraft section and a who knows what else section. But I think we're a little bit away from that just yet.
I think as more use cases show up, I think more development sort of catches on. But that's really up to us here in this room.
Right. Well, and I think that, I mean, the big thing for me, the big deciding factor between Decentraland and between Sandbox is just the graphics, for one. The possibilities in here are just, for me, it's always about aesthetic, and it's just prettier at the end of the day. It's just prettier and functions better. I mean, look at the Adidas shoe wearable in here as compared to Sandbox. The attention to detail is insane. Even the bottom of the sneaker has tread on it.
And I think being able to see that varying quality wearables and in the game, I mean, some of the builds so extravagant and so detailed in compared to pre-built items. And I feel like that differentiation is actually important because that sort of gives a scale of quality, not just exact.
Oh yeah, that ability to import items into the builder is essential. But the builder's pretty strong. I mean, the builder itself has a lot of really great marketing opportunities. Like I was speaking earlier about the billboards. I mean, the billboards don't have to be tasteless, and they can be minimized to be maybe on the side of the building. We can utilize the side of the buildings in a graffiti type fashion with NFTs on the sides of them and things like that. But I do wish that you did not have to upload to Imager to use images, because for me that's a little sketchy. If anybody has a workaround on that, I'd be glad to hear about it.
Man, this has been awesome. So we have about 10 minutes. If anybody wants to get a question in, I know I get kind of carried away and then run out of time, so I don't want people to miss out the opportunity. I don't know when Nicole will be back.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What do you think would be the next thing that it would take as a community to push it forward a bit? Like you were saying, like things like the fashion district is a little dead, but they have so much land and all these things, like we want to happen, but it seems like we're waiting for some type of breakthrough in some aspect, and what do you think is needed right now for the next breakthrough?
I feel like the districts have kind of fallen asleep. Like they got excited at the start, and they're missing this whole genesis that we're all having right now, where we're building like crazy and deploying stuff every day, and classroom's got the pizza booth and yada yada yada. But like, I do feel like in order to bridge that gap, we need to potentially advertise in the real world a little. For instance, like the Bitcoin conference that's coming this weekend. I know they've cut off all conversation about anything other than Bitcoin, which is ridiculous. But the Bitcoin conference in Miami, like, there should be giant Decentraland games, stands everywhere, or we should be there in full effect, like talking to people about the metaverse and how it's moving forward. I mean, that's your opportunity to grab the crypto guys. That's your opportunity to cross over a little bit more. I know we're not like a huge Bitcoin group here, but I mean, they at least get it. You don't have to explain it to them.
Well, have you ever thought about 3D modeling and marketing to real estate companies? A lot of real estate companies are looking for companies to go to build these platforms so that they can give virtual tours.
I actually have a friend
housing.
who's he's an architect. I have this good friend, he's an architect, and I know that he can do this kind of stuff in Blender and move it in, and I've kind of been like toying with the idea, but I just honestly, I'm finding it. I went to like the first people that I thought would be in at first, and it's so just exhausting to try to explain to everyone why this is important right now without them, like I said, dropping in, feet on the ground, understanding and being like, oh yeah, this is cool,
Well, yeah, a lot of buyers and renters with 3D pictures now are now expecting that kind of stuff due to what COVID had did with the in-person meetings and just trying to get around and just looking at these places. So 3D photography would probably be the best way of going about all that. And pitching out those ideals to those companies to say, hey, we can make this for you.
I think like one of the first things I offered was like I reached out to Lastrum and I was like, do you want me to call Domino's? Because like I'll call their marketing company is this so and so company, and I will call them for you. Like there's no reason they shouldn't be advertising this as well. They dropped that ball completely, but I think that that's kind of where I fit, is in that sort of capacity where I bridge the gap between the real world advertising and the metaverse advertising, and I exhaustingly explain repeatedly why this is the future, or just send them a bunch of Gary V videos. I don't know, but
it sounds like you got to be persistent with these people.
Yeah,
be on ball every day.
Well, they just start out and they're like, that's so cute and this is so interesting. But then, they move on to something else. Or they're like, oh, yeah, I hold crypto. Or I had one girl say, oh, yeah, I own Decentraland. I'm like, you don't own, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, yeah, like I hold, because Coinbase lists Mana as Decentraland. So she just randomly owns Mana and wanted to know.
You got to do the throw it in her hand tactic. You just drop it right in there. Be like, this is what it is. Boom, give me some money.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Do your own research.
I feel like it's going to take like a smaller, like newer startup, with like people who are millennials who understand the industry to kind of like blow up in these metaverses for the big companies who are too old to like understand the future to be like, oh, something can work, and kind of come in during that third or fourth, or like, the wave that's too late for them already.
Oh yeah, they're gonna be in like the fifth wave. But I mean, I think they do get it, and the way I do try to explain it to them as an influencer. So something they're finally just wrapping their head around is Instagram influencers. So if you just you're like, okay, well now I have a metaverse influencer for you. Like I'm in there, feet on the ground, or you say, hey, you got a new wearable? Peanut Butter should give one away on his YouTube channel, or whatever else. Or you have some model that's amazing, well, Erin should make her a wafer mom or something, like just the crossover there, creating those relationships where these things are crossing over.
I think a lot of the reason is everybody understands what it is, what it can do. It's just having to relearn the process of building this thing. It's just a lot better for somebody else to build it and show it to them how it works. And just trying to sell it to them, be like, hey, I made this item, I sold it, like, I want to sell it to you, and you can put it up and do this. It's more like you got to just throw it at them.
As an example, like I would say like a year or maybe two ago when I was going through the content marketing strategy class or whatever, we were talking about AR and trying to get these jewelry designers to design for AR so that the earrings could be tried on virtually, you know? Because these people are buying like millions of dollars worth of jewelry online, sight unseen. So, you know, getting them to be able to try the earring on, put the necklace on their neck, on a picture, things like that, they couldn't even wrap their head around that. So here I am now like, okay, but your avatar can wear it. And they're like, what? I don't understand. So then I got to send them the Gucci link where I'm like, okay, so Gucci made these sneakers and you can try them on and this is how this works and da da da. I mean, I think I'm just like, I'm a little bit ahead of it, but I'm glad that my foot is in the door because when they do turn around and someone says to them, hey, do you know about Decentraland? They'll be like, oh, my girl knows all about that. You should talk to her, you know?
Hey Nicole, it's 100 IB here. How you going?
Hey, Rainbows.
Yeah, hey. I just wanted to, just before it ends, just thank you for this because this whole presentation was extremely relevant to kind of what I'm trying to do, which is simultaneously grow a brand in the real world and the metaverse. So, you know, thanks heaps. From this I've been able to kind of determine two very clear paths that I'd like to take with 100 Rainbows. So yeah, so just thanks for that.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you got something out of it. And anytime I can
great
help
info,
you, I'd be
Nicole. Like,
happy to.
thank you so much for this.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm like really
Yeah, this is
grateful.
awesome.
And if any of you guys ever need any help, you know, you just hop into the DM and just ask away. I would say the most important thing right now is we are not 100% in Web 3.0. So the biggest thing you can do right now for your brand is to create utility and to create, if you're able to give something in the real world as well, then that helps. I think DG Games does an amazing job at marketing themselves without feeling like you're consistently being shilled to. You know, they create a space where artists can actually auction off their pieces. Then they create a contest to go with it to draw more people to auction off the pieces. I think that's just a really, really nice way of supporting art in the space.
It's really engaging, and I love participating in the auctions. I have a few NFT auctions. The reason why it really enhances the entire experience, but then also, I think I've had most of the kind of creating a space not just enhances the experience of the user.
Yeah, and it draws people to the space. You know, I mean, we're going to eventually have to move away from this. Like, we have to have an event to sell anything. But I mean, ultimately, that's what you have to do in the real world. I mean, we have to have a jewelry, we have to have a trunk show, we have to have a pop up or whatever. But I mean, I think we should move sort of to using those in real world terms as well. You know, we have a pop up store and it's open. Like, what is it? Polygonal Mind is doing right now with their $300 mana or 300 mana sale on their stuff. You know, that's essentially a pop up.
Cool. Yeah, those are really cool too. I mean, it's such a good idea. And I love to just go see what they have out. Like, it's a little store.
Yeah, I love it. And like the things are on little mannequins and whatnot. It's adorable. I mean, that's what we're going to move towards. And you know, the future of that is we get to step into a dressing room and the avatar gets to try on the wearable before the wearable is purchased. I mean, I think that's like a next step.
A virtual mirror, that'd be great.
fitting room. Oh my god.
I would not. I mean, I wouldn't have purchased hats if I knew it was going to do to the female avatar's hair. So. Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for joining us, and everybody for coming and hanging out and joining the discussion. We have a crypto casino night starting right now, so welcome to stay and win some prizes. And we'll be doing these meetups every Monday. So we'll have a new guest speaker for next week. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
And thanks so much,
All
Nicole.
right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
You too.
About to go throw all my money in the casino.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Be a